everyone, my name is Camilla. I am a graduate student at the University of Pittsburgh in the Dietitian Nutritionist program. And today I'll be doing a food demonstration for you on how to make turmeric scrambled eggs. So this is a very quick, easy, and cheap recipe, and it's a great way to put a twist on a typical breakfast meal. So if you're watching this, you may be a hyperlipidemic adult who has been looking for natural alternative sources that can help lower your blood lipids, or you may just be someone who's interested in learning more about the topic. So hyperlipidemia is a term that describes having elevated lipids or fat levels in the blood. This could be elevated triglycerides or high cholesterol, but a lot of people who have hyperlipidemia are often put on drugs to help control this. These drugs could be fibrins or statins. You may be familiar with some of these drugs, or some of you may even be on these drugs, and so maybe you've been researching natural alternative agents that can help lower your blood lipids, and perhaps you've come across curcumin in your research. So today we're going to be learning about curcumin, which comes from turmeric, and how it lowers our blood lipids. So curcumin is a polyphenol that comes from the spice turmeric, and turmeric is a spice that originates from India. It's been used in Indian culture for thousands of years, both in medicine and in cuisine. It's frequently used throughout Southeast Asia to add color and flavor to foods. Most commonly, you probably know it as something that's used in curries, but it's also used in spice blends, for stews, and as well as in some rice dishes. So today we're going to be incorporating turmeric into our scrambled eggs to kind of add a way to add it into our diet, as this is a typical breakfast meal in the US. So to buy turmeric, you don't have to go to a specialty store. You can find it at any local grocery store. I got mine at the local Giant Eagle in Shadyside. So it's not difficult to come across, and if you're interested, you could also buy turmeric in its whole root form, in which you would then grate it or finely chop it to use it in whatever recipe you choose. So with that, let's get started. This is a quick recipe. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes altogether with the prep, and I'm going to walk you through our ingredients. So here's a lineup of the ingredients that we'll be using today. So to start, we have a teaspoon of canola oil to grease our pan. We have half a teaspoon of minced garlic. Here we have a 3/4 cup of spinach that's already been rinsed. We have 4 eggs here, as this is a recipe that serves 2. Then we have our 2 teaspoons of turmeric. We have a 1/4 cup of coconut milk. And then as an option, we also have sourdough bread here. As I said, the bread is optional. So if you do choose to use bread as a vehicle for your eggs, you can go ahead and toast them in a toaster oven if you have one at your disposal. If not, you don't have to worry about that. So let's get started. So to get started, you're going to need a frying pan, and we're going to turn our stovetop on to medium heat. We are then going to add our canola oil. Let that warm up on the pan a bit. Now, if you'd like, you can use olive oil. Olive oil is a good source of healthy fats. Really, any oil you choose would work just fine for this recipe. Spread that out a little on the pan, let that heat up. In the meantime, if you do choose to use bread, now would be the time to add it to the toaster. So all toaster ovens work a little differently. In general, I like my toast very just lightly browned, not too dark or crispy, but you can toast it to whatever level you'd like. So now I'm going to add our minced garlic, our half teaspoon. And if you'd like, you can use whole garlic cloves. I would recommend using about half of a medium-sized clove and then finely chopping it to the same size that you would have minced garlic. And I'm just going to spread it around in the pan. We're just going to let that fry up a bit till it browns a bit. And then we're also going to add our rinsed spinach. Go ahead and just spread that around. Remember to wash your hands prior to cooking and touching your food. And so we want the spinach to just wilt slightly. If you find that your spinach is sticking to the pan too much, you can add just a splash of water, and that should help resolve that. I'm just going to spread this out a little more. All right. And while that cooks down, we are going to make our egg mixture. So we're going to start and pour in our coconut milk. Okay. And then we're going to add our 2 teaspoons of turmeric powder. Okay, and then you can whisk these together with a fork. If you want to use a whisk, you can. I have only a small bowl at my disposal, so I thought a whisk would be a little too big. So you just want to mix these up until they are a pretty smooth consistency, well mixed. You want to be careful when using turmeric. It very easily stains. You don't want to get it on your clothes, on your countertops, and if you're using wooden utensils, just be aware that those will also be stained, which, you know, that's completely up to you if you want to do that, but they will get a yellowish permanent stain on them. And so turmeric has a very light aromatic smell, commonly associated with like a light orange or ginger scent, but its taste is pungent and bitter, so it adds a nice twist to our eggs here. And so that is just about mixed. Our spinach, I'll show you, is looking slightly wilted. Okay, and so we're gonna add our egg mixture. Okay, you wanna set that aside on a paper towel in case there's any drippings, because again, it stains very easily. And so you'll notice, I'll bring this a little closer. So you'll notice the eggs start to solidify on the bottom, and so what you want to do is you just want to maybe even lower the heat a little bit, and you want to just move the solid egg mixture to the middle. And you'll notice it start to kind of collect and gather in the middle there. And essentially the purpose of that is to let the cooked egg kind of get out of the way while the runny part of the egg starts to run to the edges and then also get cooked. So you just want to keep doing that throughout, making sure your spinach doesn't get too bunched up in the center, and then let that sit for a second. And so one of the proposed mechanisms of action and how curcumin works in lowering lipids in our body, there's lots of theories. One is that it lowers the production of an enzyme called HGM-CoA reductase. This enzyme is just a big important step in the production of cholesterol. So if we reduce that enzyme, we reduce how much cholesterol we're making. Another theory is that it reduces the absorption of cholesterol in our bodies. And then there's also a theory that it decreases the production of lipoproteins, which are basically the vehicles that carry triglycerides and cholesterol throughout our body in our blood. So I'm gonna just keep mixing it. You're starting to see that it's solidifying a little. Flip it over. Now, curcumin only makes up about 3.4%. Oh, that's our toast. Curcumin only makes up about 3.4% of turmeric, and it also has a pretty low bioavailability, which just means that it's not very easily absorbed by our bodies. And so research on what the exact dosage of curcumin should be to see the lipid lowering effects has not yet been determined. However, there is some theories, some research that says that about 1,890 milligrams of curcumin, which is about 3.5 to 4 tablespoons of turmeric, if you were to consume that daily, that should produce the lipid lowering effects that we find with curcumin. And so it's also been found that fat helps with the absorption of curcumin, and so adding a fat source to whatever you are cooking your curcumin in can aid in the absorption there. Again, research has not quite been able to find yet what the exact amount of fat is that you would need to see this absorption, but just in general, it's a good rule of thumb to add some kind of fat source to whatever you're cooking your turmeric with. And so these look just about ready. I like my eggs a little drier. If you prefer them a little runnier, that's completely up to you. Okay. And turmeric is considered perfectly safe to use. There are no adverse effects. I'm going to turn off the stove there. Besides maybe some mild stomach upset if you take too much, so you don't have to worry about anything there. I'm going to grab our toast. Nice and lightly browned. And now I'm just going to add the eggs to the bread. You can just evenly split this up however you choose. About eyeball it about 50-50, being that this is supposed to serve 2 people. Go ahead and do that. All right. Leave some extra there. And here we have our final product. So let's go ahead and give this a try. Wow. Yep, very good. The turmeric adds a nice, strong, but not overbearing flavor. You can get the hints of the coconut milk in there, which is very nice, very different. And so this recipe is meant to serve 2 people. So if you were to have a serving, which would be about here, that would provide about 170 milligrams of curcumin, which isn't a lot. As I mentioned, that it's recommended to get about 1,890 milligrams. However, you can add turmeric throughout the day into your other meals to help reach that goal of 3.5 tablespoons. Having things like curries and stews. Some people enjoy golden milk, which is basically a coconut milk turmeric mixture that people just drink. So there's lots of ways you can incorporate turmeric into your diet to help reach that 3.5 tablespoons. And this is one great way. It's a delicious meal. As I mentioned before, the bioavailability of curcumin is enhanced with fat. And we have the canola oil in here, or whatever oil you choose to use. We have the coconut milk. You can get a reduced fat coconut milk if you choose, but there is fat in the coconut milk as well that helps us. And then just the naturally nutrient-dense fat that comes with the eggs themselves. So if there's something in the recipe that you didn't agree with, or you want to make additions or substitutions, this is a very easy, versatile recipe. You can play around with it. You can add more vegetables. You can add cheeses, again, adding more fat to enhance the absorption. I like to put hot sauce on my eggs. When you're whisking the eggs, feel free to add any salt or pepper to add a little more flavor. Black pepper is also thought to increase the absorption of turmeric, of curcumin. So again, playing around with anything. You don't have to use bread. If you do, you don't have to use sourdough bread. And if you have an egg allergy, you can still enjoy this recipe. There are vegan egg alternative options. My only warning with that would be that sometimes a lot of them have turmeric already added into the vegan egg just to add flavor to it. So just be aware of that if you're already adding turmeric, as you don't want too much of a overbearing, pungent turmeric taste. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something today about curcumin and its lipid lowering effects. Thank you.